can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Wise here. I'm founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders like the founders of P90X, Baby Einstein, Atari, many more, and how they overcome big challenges in life and business. Today I'm excited. We have Jay Papasan, co-authored The One Thing, the surprisingly simple truth behind extraordinary results with Gary Keller. Jay, I have to read the subhead. You probably worked really long and hard on that subheadline. It's been translated into 24 languages, has more than 275 national bestseller list appearances, including #1 on the Wall Street Journal, and has sold millions of copies. And when I ask many top entrepreneurs, one of the most impactful books they read, The One Thing comes up over and over. I've personally listened to it 3 times on Audible. Jay, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
Jay, since it's Inspired Insider, I always ask, what's the lowest point and how you push through the tough time in business?
Oh, lowest point. My father had a nearly fatal stroke.
Whoa.
Lost a, grandparent. Those are the, I'm not, I don't know if you expected a business answer. Our sales dropped by 50%, but for me, the lowest low points is almost always going to be personal.
Yeah.
And I connect my personal development, right, with my professional development. If I want to be a best example for my kids, then I have to be the best I can at what I do.
Yeah.
And try to role model to them what it means to be happy and successful in work. And so those are the tough times for me, dealing with sick loved ones, people who are struggling. Gary was pretty sick at one point, not the verge of death, but, he had his mother pass away.
Yeah.
And that's really tough, to lose somebody like that. And then you still come to the office. You don't want to let the team down.
Right.
And for me, at least, and for him, working through those things instead of just stopping is the way we dealt with it.
Yeah.
So anyway.
That's the reality, Jay. And I like that you said that because, we are focused on the one thing in business or the one thing in family. And we get thrown for loops when that stuff happens. So when you have a family member or a mother or father gets sick, how do you shift? What do you do as far as, you said you just keep going. What does that mean?
Well, partnership helps, right?
Yeah.
You get on a plane and you go be where you need to be, and you're 100% there while you're there. But you let your partners know. It's okay, my one thing has just shifted.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. If you have a sick child at home, you're going to go home and be with them if you're a single parent.
Right.
If your spouse can't cover, and that is your one thing, right? If you're choosing work over a loved one, bad priorities, right? Well, then you have to catch up, and that's the hard part. If you're really committed to being, goal driven, and your, thing was, I'm going to write a page a day, 5 pages a week, and you lose 2 weeks because you had to go home and take care of it. Well, now you've got to pick up the pace, and you're behind 10 pages.
Yeah.
And so, the next week your goal is 30 pages, and maybe you do 15. And the next week you set 15, and maybe you do 10. It might take you a whole month of really grinding it out. So that's the way, we try to live, and we try to definitely coach people to perform. If you get behind, get back on track fast.
Yeah.
If your people are getting behind, get them back on track on fast. When people know that you're paying attention, they don't slip, and they don't stay slip because they're waiting for you to say, hey, what happened?
Yeah. What about on the flip side, one of the proudest moments, outside of obviously your kids being born and getting married and all that?
Oh, gosh, there have been a lot. I've never had a book that got translated into as many languages. And so, we're in Indonesia and, seeing our book in a bookstore, that's cool.
Yeah, especially being a translator. Because it was interesting, you were translate, was it medical things in France?
Yeah, I work for an orthopedic medical company, so knee surgeries and stuff like that.
Right.
It's not what it's what I did so I could live in France.
Right,
I would
right.
never pretend to say I was a translator. I masqueraded as one so I could live in France.
Right. So it's been translated in different languages. What else has been just...
The first time, I remember the first time I saw anyone in a public place reading one of my books that I hadn't personally given the book. It's one thing to walk in your living room and your mom's reading your book.
Yeah.
But to walk into your grocery store or restaurant, there's a place called like Whole Foods here. It's called Central Market. They have a great, healthy restaurant. I remember walking in, and there's a guy sitting at the table reading The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. And I was like, that is so cool. That is so cool. You look over and someone's reading the one thing in an airport, and I was like, those are like, my kids seeing my book in an airport bookstore. Like I have a series of those little moments, and each time there was a first time, it was a big deal because I'm a book nerd at heart.
Yeah, for sure. So I have a last question for you, Jay, but before I ask it, thank you for your time. Book is phenomenal. Everyone should check out The One Thing. Where should we point people towards to check out on the web? I know theonething.com, that's and then the number one thing.com. Where else should we point people towards to check out maybe the time blocking mastery? Where can they check that out?
Yeah, theonething.com with the number one is where everything lives, including my social links and all of that if they want to connect with me. Yeah. And then timeblockingmastery.com is where the new course we're offering lives. And that's pretty cool. People should check it out. I think there's 3 videos that they can watch on it without making any commitment.
Yeah. Check that out. I highly suggest it. Like I said, I highly value my time, and I've listened to it 3 times just because I think there's not enough times I can hear that message
That's so
and
awesome.
implement it.
Thank you.
I thought you were going to say for the proudest moment. I was reading something about you're involved with Heroes for Children. Yeah. What is that?
So, gosh, I'll do the quick version.
Yeah.
We got challenged, as a company to stop giving each other gifts at Christmas and start giving back.
Yeah.
And so I looked up, and my wife and I, we're at a place where we're wealth building. We can give so much, but we want to do more. So why don't we we started setting goals around fundraising.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
And I went to a poker tournament for charity. It was called Heroes for Children, or Hold'em for Heroes.
Right.
And all the proceeds benefited children battling cancer.
Wow.
And there's all kinds of expenses that fall through the cracks.
Sure.
And so I attended one year. The next year I volunteered for the committee. And then the last 4 years, my wife and I have led the committee. And so each year we set higher goals. And last year we netted over $100,000
wow.
in one night.
That's amazing.
Which for us is that's a huge number, for us to finally attain with one little poker event in town. And it's just cool because you get to meet these parents and what they're dealing with. And, just buying them gas money, can make the difference.
The little things.
Them. Yeah.
Yeah. Congratulations with that. That's awesome.
Oh, thanks, man. I am really proud of that.
Yeah. So my last question is about your family and how your wife's role in your success.
Muse, inspiration. I can go all those things, right? Because she'll listen to this, I'm sure.
Because she's very impressive. I think I was reading about her that I don't know if she, business-wise, I'm sure, as a wife and as a mom, also impressive. But it was, on the business side, she told 1 million, then 3 million, then 20 million or whatever it was in real estate.
Yeah, she's already sold 40 million this year.
That's wild.
She's crazy successful. She's competitive with herself, not other people. She hires amazing talent and surrounds herself with it.
So what has she taught you about business?
Well, she's a natural CEO. I'm not.
Yeah.
I know that that's somebody I have to hire. I can own the business. I have no business running it. She can do both. So she's very action-oriented. She is unafraid to ask for what she needs. Mm-hmm. So when we're doing fundraising, she always raises more money because she'll just start calling random businesses. And she had T-shirts made this year. How do you feel about kids with cancer? That's how she leads.
Right.
I feel horrible about him. Well, how much would you like to donate?
Right.
Go right to it. And she inspires me. She's a great, great lady and really committed to having a big life. We want to travel. We both want to own big businesses, but we're on the same page. We want to raise great kids, and that's the bigger task. Yeah. And how do we do both? Yeah. And that means we have to say no to some opportunities so that we can be there for our family. Yeah. And I love that we're on the same page.
You do entrepreneur activities with your kids too.
Yeah.
Right. So what kind of things for parents of young kids or, not young kids, I'm curious of what you guys do.
Well, we ended up getting him in a different school. My son was doing great. We went to a public school. I believe in public schools, but my daughter was not flourishing there. And so there's here in Austin, Texas, a thing called the Acton Academy.
Mm-hmm. I've never heard of it. Yeah.
They have an MBA program, and the MBA was all Socratic method. It's all case studies and Socratic method.
Interesting.
And so nobody told you the answers. You had to go find them for yourself.
Yeah.
And the students were like, I want my kids to experience this.
Right.
And so they founded this small school, and we were some of the first kids to be a part of it. So my kids have to set goals every morning. They manage their own education, and they get to choose what they work on each day. And they have goals in all these categories. So they eventually have to get to it. But they want to just read one day, they just read one day.
Right.
And so I'd credit what we did is we were open and willing to put them in an alternative learning environment.
Right.
But we've reinforced that at home.
Yeah.
How would you do that? So I would just say this. If you don't do the school thing, instead of telling your kids answers, start asking better questions.
Right.
So what would you do to find your shoes, Gus? What would you do if you really were hungry and I wasn't here? And they're really resourceful if you let them do it. But I'm usually so impatient. I'm like, your shoes are over there. Go make yourself a peanut butter and jelly. But teaching them and trusting them to think for themselves is the best gift.
Yeah.
But it requires entrepreneurs. I mean, we're not the most patient people. You have to slow down, and asking questions is the heart of coaching.
Yeah. What's the most interesting thing you've seen your kids discover or learn from that process?
Well, my daughter has self-discovered kind of what's called the hero's journey they talk about. And
really?
So they really have gotten, and this is cool, that failure is the path to success. And, they talk about like breaking down movies. This is the hero's darkest hour. And this is when they find their mentor. It's the classic, every tale is the same, but they've made that a business tale.
Yeah.
And so the kids have internalized that.
Wow.
And so my daughter, I don't know if she has or not, she actually thinks that she's found her calling. And
which is what?
She wants to be a programmer.
Really?
Which is, I guess writing, programming, there's some of that going on. But like she taught herself Python. Wow. And is, sitting there on the computer and will code on her days off. And I'm just like, I love that she's passionate about something. Yeah. And that whole idea that they're kind of unafraid of failure is awesome, because that's something a lot of us adults are a little afraid of.
Yeah. Jay, this has been absolutely fantastic. I really appreciate it. Everyone should check out The One Thing and their time blocking mastery. Thank you so much, Jay. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like $100 grand.